Hi, and welcome to another bone-chilling investigation with Insomniac Creation Studio. I'm Ember, Ensnow, your guide through the tangled web of mystery, intrigue, and heartfelt curiosity. If you crave answers to questions that never seem to sleep, then you've come to the right place. I hope you're prepared, because I have a lot of opinions, and I plan to share them with you. Hi, and welcome back, Insomniacs. I am Ember, and I have returned for episode 3 of the Olivia Janie Ward coverage. It was pointed out to me that in one of my prior episodes, I had referred to Dr. Malik as a coroner, when in fact he is the medical examiner for the state of Arkansas during this time. I just wanted to clarify that difference, as I want the information that I put out to be accurate as possible. I have been reviewing other podcasts that have covered Janie's case, and it's obvious that there are a few out there spreading misinformation. Some of that is information being that she was taken to the hospital when she left the parking lot. She went directly from the parking lot to the funeral home, and that is a fact. Other misinformation I'll go over in future episodes. Here is another fact for you. There is an interview with Luann Longshore that was conducted on December 11th, 1989 at 7:25 p.m. at the Searcy County Sheriff's Department, 3 months after Janie died. Those listed as present were George Sutterfield, Joey Pruitt, and Lester Longshore, listed as her father. This is stamped Exhibit number 4, and it's page 2705 in the file that I have. It states, "Today I saw an article in the paper on Olivia Ward. I think the Arkansas Democrat. There is a part in the article that talks about a white pinstripe shirt she supposedly had on. I saw Olivia the evening she died at Bilo at about 5:30 p.m. I talked to her. Olivia was talking about going to the party at Jamie's. Olivia said she was going to crash Jamie's party because Jamie had crashed her party sometime in the past. She said that she would see us later and left. Janie left with Ron Rose and Kim Woody in Ron's truck. Olivia seemed like she always did, in a good mood. Before I saw Olivia at Bilo, I saw her at the pool hall in Marshall around 5 p.m. We were all standing outside the pool hall. Olivia came walking up. We all walked into the pool hall with her. She said that she had a bag of clothes and she wanted to leave them inside. Olivia set the bag of clothes in there by the pop machine. Olivia said that she had spent the night before with Leslie Watts, and she said that something like her parents will probably be mad because she hadn't come home the night before. We all then went back to Bilo, me, Mary Sanders, and Olivia walking. Olivia had a Def Leppard t-shirt on, black in color, blue jeans, and tennis shoes. Now, the next section looks like it was highlighted and then photocopied to make it kind of blackened out looking, but I was able to make out and read what it said. So her statement continues with, "I have heard she got into a fight with either Sarah Patterson or Tiffany Horton." And then this part, I do have a problem reading, but it almost looks like it says, Jeannie Canada was also supposed to have started in on her. This was supposed to have happened at the party. I do know for a fact at school, Tiffany Horton and Olivia Ward did not get along. And then the next segment states that Gary Snow showed me how she fell from the porch a couple of days after Olivia died. I believed him. Then Ronnie Ward showed me one picture that he got from Little Rock, and 2 or 3 that he took, I guess, at the funeral home. After seeing Ronnie Ward's pictures and him talking to me, I don't believe Gary Snow in the way that he says that she died. Ronnie Ward asked me to listen to one of Olivia's favorite songs, Janie's Got a Gun. I did listen to it, and I still don't know why he wanted me to. About all it says is, Janie's got a gun, what's her daddy done? And that was the end of the statement in that file. So I hope this puts to rest questions of whether or not she was or was not wearing a Def Leppard t-shirt prior to the party. I believe this person's statement because it was told to me by another person who was on the square before and after the party that night, as this person did not attend the party. There has also been questions about why would the pinstripe shirt have been removed. Well, for one, it was evidence, and with it having long sleeves, I can see it being removed for ease of assessment of the body. It's logged in all reports as existing. It was lost somewhere in the chain of evidence transfer back and forth. Mail time. It has been suggested that I subscribe to the newspaper site where Mike Masterson wrote his articles about Janie's case. I'll start by covering some of the free articles that were posted to the family site, and then we'll go from there. I believe a few articles were also included in the file that I have from the Arkansas State Police. A listener asked if there was a log of the call sending the cops to the party. Were they ever en route as suggested by witnesses at the party who stated someone heard it being discussed on the party line? Or was that just a story made up to cover up what happened and was used to break up the party so that they could transport the body? I have not run across a report like that from the sheriff's office as of yet. A male listener says that he has done some of his own research, and he drove to the house and saw it from the road. He looked around the square and imagined where everything must have happened, and I did the same when I visited the area. It helps to gain perspective of what all has been reported as happening. He states that he has family in the area who were on the square that night but had not attended the party. He says he wholeheartedly believes Sarah and another were to blame, but he is still at a loss of what to think. He says that he geeks over stories like this, but don't we all just a little bit? We all want to know the answers, and some of us obsess over every detail because we believe that somewhere in these files or in people's memories lies the answers that we seek. He says, thank you for coming out with another episode, and I appreciate all my listeners. He continues, I hope something happens or is at least figured out. He states there are 3 ways to the square from where they were partying. 2 have creek crossings. 1 way you cross 2 creeks. Also, 2 river spots. One makes more sense than the other, but it's hard to really pinpoint because there isn't really an actual time that it was supposed to have happened. They give the time that she came to the bank, but not when she got hurt or fell off the porch. Investigator Bill Beach was a pastor one town over from Marshall in St. Joe, and he just recently retired, I believe. I think he has a lot more to do with the cover-up than most seem to put off, just my opinion. And this is, again, still the male listener that wrote to me. He says that Sherry Beth and Gary Don are together now. And he then asks me what is expected to be done actually without a recorded confession. So here's my response to that question. So many people speculate about what's in the file. So rather than everyone spending hundreds of dollars to get a copy, I plan to just tell them all about it, because even if they had it, they may not know what a lot of it means. So I hope that someone will someday speak up, even if to a friend or someone will tell someone something that blows the whole case wide back open. Even if nothing happens, then at least information gathered will be out in the open. My take on things is that if it was an accidental homicide, then I encourage the person to take ownership. If it was a fight, then own it. If it was a mistake made by a minor, if it was an accidental push while fleeing, then own it. If she accidentally fell out the truck, then own that. Accidents happen. Accidents can be forgiven and moved past. Not knowing makes heartache grow and last forever. Even if nothing happens, then at least the information gathered will be out in the open. Most podcasts only cover the case for like a few episodes, 1 to 3. Hell and Gone did the most coverage that I have seen so far, but in my honest opinion, they are paid to entertain and don't really want to find a truth. They even laughed at the fact that one of the streets was called High Tech and made a comment about how ironic. I got the feeling that they think we're all stuck in the Stone Age. And I've been gaming and computing since the Atari age. My mom was a gamer. She used the computer up until the day that she passed. I have no idea how many episodes this will be, but I will just keep going until I feel that it's all out there. The guy who wrote to me continues, I figured this out today. Searcy County had an airport built shortly after Janie's death in 1989. The night of the death, the meeting going on at the community center was about that said airport. I do not know if you know this, but Searcy County Airport was supposed to be commercial. But when it was measured after it was built, it was a few feet short from the runway to be commercial. So instead of adding a few more feet, they made it residential. With Bill Clinton being tied to the boys on the track and the fact that he was supposedly headed to the community center in Marshall, September 9th, 1989, the night that Janie died, but he never made it. Makes me think that the airport was never meant to be commercial. He also states that Tim Horton, who was at the party that night, is now the Searcy County judge. So there's just a little bit of mail to keep your brain wheels turning. Now this is from me. Something else that I questioned that I haven't heard anyone discuss is what percentage of isopropyl alcohol was used to soak the fruit in the PGA punch, which stands for pure grain alcohol punch. And additionally, were other alcohols poured in as well? I haven't ran across that yet, but I haven't read the whole file. So typical isopropyl alcohol concentrations in the late 80s in the U.S. were 70% isopropyl alcohol, which is the most common household rubbing alcohol. 91% isopropyl alcohol is a stronger version, but widely available in drugstores. And then there was a 99% isopropyl alcohol, which is industrial or lab grade, which is less common in households. If somebody in 1989 dumped rubbing alcohol into punch, odds are it was the 70% to 91%, both of which are toxic when ingested. Toxic dose for an approximate 140-pound woman is as follows. 70% isopropyl, as little as 8 ounces, which is about 1 cup, can be fatal. Smaller amounts can still cause severe central nervous system depression, vomiting, and coma. 91% isopropyl, even 4 to 6 ounces, can be lethal. And then the 99% isopropyl in lower volumes, 3 to 4 ounces, may be fatal. But remember, if in a fruit soak, the woman wouldn't need to drink a whole cup. The fruit acts like a sponge, holding concentrations of isopropyl and ethanol, which is the alcohol that they put in it. I have not seen yet if additional alcohol was poured into the punch besides just the isopropyl and the fruit punch, but a few pieces could deliver a massive combined dose. Modeling this theory around it being 70 to 91% isopropyl alcohol range, assuming enough soaked fruit was consumed to deliver a toxic plus intoxicating load within 3 to 4 hours. So this explains why she could plausibly be dead by 8 p.m. if she started eating the fruit around 4. However, witnesses placed her being picked up on the square between 5 and 5:30. Another question, though, would be, did anyone else consume the same oranges and drink the punch with no side effects? Supposedly, the oranges were soaked for 24 hours. Ethanol and isopropyl act together, impairing coordination, and no one mentioned her vomiting, so in my opinion, she didn't consume enough for it to be fatal. She did not exhibit signs of her body fighting off poison. Setting the vomiting aside, she could have had dizziness, which might have contributed to the alleged fall. Toxic absorption compounded with trauma could lead to a death. According to the evidence, and if there had been competent medical examiner, the situation could have gone like this. If she began eating the fruit around 4, which this is just a timeline that was given to me as just an example. If she was already dead by 8 p.m. and after a fall, starting her first fruit at 4 p.m., then the sequence would have been rapid and catastrophic. And here's what it suggests, the likely chain of events. 4 to 5, she eats several pieces of fruit. Both ethanol and isopropyl alcohol start absorbing. Intoxication rises sharply because of the high proof soak. Stomach irritation begins early. 5:30 to 6:30, the central nervous system depression accelerates faster than the ethanol alone. So dizziness, blurred vision, disorientation appear sooner, and she may vomit, but with isopropyl sedation can overwhelm her protective reflexes, skipping the vomiting altogether. So between 7 and 8, that is your critical window. Several impairments, staggering, confusion, coordination could be gone by then. A fall at this stage is highly plausible, and she could have missteps, collapsed from sudden low blood pressure, or passed out standing. The fall could result in head trauma, which is a skull fracture or brain bleed, or airway obstruction, which is choking on vomit if she had collapsed. And possibly rather than expelling the vomit, she aspirated instead, but none of these things were proven with any of the evidence that was shown. So the autopsy did not show anything in the lungs. It did show them a little heavier than normal, but it didn't show any substances. It was said that she could have choked on the fruit, but there wasn't evidence of any stuck in her throat. The only mention of a throat issue was the hemorrhage of the epiglottis, which is the stiff but flexible flap of cartilage at the base of the tongue that closes over the trachea or the windpipe during swallowing to prevent food and liquids from entering the lungs. However, the windpipe area could also have been injured from being hit with a alleged bat. Serious damage can occur to the epiglottis and other parts of the larynx from blunt force trauma, even without any bone fractures. The initial injury may involve only soft tissue damage, but the subsequent swelling can be life-threatening. So the cause of death, the contributing factors are: 1, toxicity. The isopropyl poisoning depresses the nervous system and lowers the blood pressure. Ethanol worsens disorientation and balance. By 8 p.m., her system may have already been on the edge of a coma. 2, the fall or the trauma from a bat. With her reflexes dulled, she couldn't protect herself. A blow to the head or a neck could kill her quickly. If she aspirated vomit while unconscious, that could cause rapid asphyxiation. So, number 3, the timeline consistency. Death by 8 p.m. implies a massive early dose from the fruit and lots of soaked pieces of high isopropyl content. So here's how it may look. To friends, she got drunk really fast and stumbled, fell, and never woke up. And it was reported that she was fine by some people and drunk by others. So we will never really know. Medically, she would have been experiencing acute alcohol and isopropyl poisoning, and her body weakened and her brain slowed, and the fall or aspiration finished what the poison had already started. But that does not add up to all the witness accounts. If this were a coroner's case, the death certificate might read, immediate cause, blunt force trauma to the head, or aspiration. Neither were definitely proven, which is why the death certificate could not say anything other than cause unknown and manner unknown. The contributing cause, acute combined alcohol and isopropyl intoxication. Something to keep in mind when following any case. Witnesses will sometimes lie to minimize their involvement in the case. If they say, I don't remember, or I didn't see anything, or I wasn't there, don't always believe them. They just don't want to be questioned further, involved, or implicated. Okay, it's time for a few articles. Since we covered the dispatch and ambulance run sheets in episode 2, I figured we needed to cover 3 articles from Mike Masterson, an award-winning Arkansas journalist who has now passed away after writing 200 plus articles covering Janie's case. The first one reads, 90 minutes missing, or actually 90 missing minutes, posted on Sunday, November 7th, 2004. This was the evening Olivia Janie Ward of Marshall died. So darkness must have fallen 30 minutes later. This fact alone shines light on the claims of every witness. Yesterday, I told you about Kathy Beeson, the first emergency medical technician to reach 16-year-old Janie's lifeless body in the back of the pickup. She said she was notified of Janie's condition by a knock at the Pruitt ambulance service door. Beeson said that she hurried across the street in darkness less than a half block to the bank parking lot where Janie's body lay beneath a street lamp in the bed of the truck. She found no vital signs. Someone at the scene told her that Janie had been in that condition for 30 to 45 minutes. Now comes the notarized statement from a former Searcy County Sheriff's dispatcher and veteran policeman, Harold Young, signed on August 1st, 2002. Today, he manages the 911 emergency service effort in Searcy County. On September 9th, 1989, at approximately 6:30 p.m., while dispatching for the Searcy County Sheriff's Department, Ron Rose came to the jail to report that he had a subject, Janie Ward, in his pickup truck that needed medical attention. I found a white female who appeared to be lifeless laying in the back of the pickup. As I recall, she was laying on her side by herself in the bed of the truck. Her hair appeared damp, but due to her lifeless state, I told Ron to immediately take her to the bank parking lot just off the square. And at this time, this was next to the residence which housed the people who ran the ambulance service. I then went inside the jail and called the people at the ambulance base and told them what they had coming and asked them to meet Ron in the bank parking lot to see what they could do for this girl. Young reaffirmed in later October that this statement is accurate. I might have been off just a little bit on my time, he says, but it was in no way dark when I saw the girl at the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's office is only a few minutes' drive from the bank parking lot. When Janie's body being brought to the sheriff's office, even as late as 7 p.m., that means a half hour remained until sunset, and Janie's body wasn't reported at the square until after dark, closer to 8:30. Two death certificates, one never signed, claims that she died at 8:45 p.m. So what happened in those missing 90 minutes? Did someone redress her and rinse her wet, sandy clothes and body? Why didn't the original investigators and the prosecuting attorney's office ask such crucial questions? Further compounding this mystery is the fact that Beeson insists that the ambulance service never received a call from Young or anyone at the sheriff's office that evening. We learned about the girl when someone knocked on our door that night, she said. Beeson's grown son, who was 12 at the time, confirmed her account, saying he followed those excited door knockers to Rose's truck out of youthful curiosity. My problem is that I believe both Young and Beeson. If an investigator had taken formal statements from either of them at the time, perhaps the picture would have been clearer today. But none of this happened in what the officials involved have deemed a complete and thorough investigation into Janie's death. Dr. Harry Bunnell, a California forensic pathologist and medical examiner, concluded from a second autopsy in early October that the death was a homicide. Meanwhile, Callie Vo, an associate working with Bettina Brownstein, a former partner of Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings in Little Rock, said his law firm, which represents Janie's parents, is seeking to have the manner of Janie's death officially changed from undetermined to homicide based on Bunnell's findings. Our firm also has requested a meeting with H.G. Foster, the prosecutor in this case from the beginning, says Vo. I say you go, Brownstein and Vo. Perhaps all Arkansans with children of their own can detect a ray of light in 15 years of dark clouds hanging over this girl's death. So Article 2 reads, Water, Sand, and Gravel, Mike Masterson, Arkansas Democrat Gazette, Saturday, November 6, 2004. Section Editorial. Olivia Janie Ward's lifeless body and clothing were wet and sprinkled with sand, twigs, and small grains of gravel. Some debris was even trapped inside the waist of her underpants, according to the EMT that arrived on the scene September 9th, 1989. Velma Kathy Beeson, who in the 1990s moved from Marshall, said that she was a nurse and emergency medical technician when she and her husband were summoned to the bank parking lot less than a block from the Pruitt ambulance service, and they were managing. She told me that she learned of Janie's death when John Childers, then a part-time driver for the family ambulance service and EMT wannabe, came to the door with others and said help was needed. At 3:45 a.m., an Arkansas State Police investigator, Sergeant Bill Beach, took Childers' formal statement in the Searcy County Sheriff's Office. I wonder today why authorities never interviewed first responder Beeson and the second EMT at the scene, Cheryl Pruitt. Beeson told me that she hurried the half block to the truck as her former husband, J.D., went for the ambulance. She found the 16-year-old high school junior lying on her right side in the bed of a pickup belonging to Ron Rose. Rose and Kim Woody, both of Marshall, had taken Janie to the late afternoon party at the cabin 3 miles outside of town. The version accepted by authorities is that Janie died after falling backwards off a 9.5-inch porch step into dry ground during the party. After an initial autopsy, that documented her fractured spinal column, the state ruled in a manner of Janie's death as undetermined. Following an exhumation and second autopsy last month, a board-certified forensic pathologist from San Diego, California, concluded that her death was a homicide caused by blunt force trauma that fractured both her neck and nose. Rolling Janie onto her back on the truck's tailgate, Beeson told me that she couldn't find any vital signs. Working over the girl, who was clad in Def Leppard t-shirt, which her parents later said they never seen before, denim pants, and tennis shoes, Beeson said that she could smell only the sweet fragrance of Janie's perfume. I asked the kids standing around me how long she had been like that, said Beeson. There was just silence. So I asked them again, even louder. Still, no one said a word. Finally, I shouted, "Gosh damn it. How long has she been like this?" Finally, someone said, "For 30 to 45 minutes. And I repeated, "Just like this for 30 or 45 minutes, meaning death?" And the response was, "Yeah." Later, Beeson said she overheard someone say that they had been driving around trying to figure out what to do. Beeson said that she was soon joined on the scene by Pruitt, also an EMT and a nurse. I asked Cheryl to contact the police and the coroner, said Beeson. By that time, she added, the parking lot was filling up with kids, and Beeson said that she finally had to instruct everyone to stand back and give them some privacy. When Kenneth Griggs, then the sheriff, showed up, she continued, "We rolled her over and I noticed some abrasions on her face. The thing that struck me most was the sand in her wet hair, along with gravel, leaves, twigs, and beggar's lice. The most sand and small gravel to be found around Marshall is at the beach area along the Buffalo River, about 4 miles from where the party was held." Beeson said she could not detect by feeling of Janie's neck if it was fractured. But she did notice that the girl's lips were blue and there were abrasions beneath one eye, on her forehead, and her chin. Her clothes were damp except for the inside of her pant legs, which seemed unusual, said Beeson, adding that she thought that was a little odd. Although she was uncertain of the exact time, Beeson said it was definitely past dark. Rose's truck was parked beneath the street lamp that provided enough light to see. 2 death certificates claim that she died at 8:45 p.m. in the parking lot. Coroner Thomas Martin's incomplete report said that he was on the scene at 8:30. Janie's parents, Ron and Mona Ward, and many others believe Janie died earlier that evening and far from the parking lot. Witnesses' statements around her alleged fall are a hodgepodge of contradictions, but it is certain that there was no sand, gravel, or even running water at the house where the party was held. Beeson's ex-husband carried Janie's body to the local Kaufman funeral home. Cheryl and I went back to the ambulance service together and filled out the report. Beeson said, "I imagine Janie's body arrived at the funeral home sometime around 9 that night, but I don't know for certain." The Arkansas Division of Emergency Medical Services could not produce the ambulance run report because I could not provide its official number. But that did not alter Beeson's memory. "It's time to find out what happened," she said. "This has bothered me from the very first." So article number 3 says, True Justice for Janie, A Father's Obsession, August 5th, 2018, publication, Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette. 16-year-old Olivia Janie Ward died on September 9th, 1989, during a teen party at a rural cabin near her hometown of Marshall. Readers familiar with the circumstances of her death from a broken neck suffered after supposedly falling off a 9-inch tall rock porch into the yard learned plenty of details about this shameful case during the 4 years that I wrote about it, beginning in 2004. By the time Janie's body has undergone 2 exhumations and 3 autopsies, several things were beyond apparent to her father, Ron Ward, and mother, Mona. first, they believed that Janie had been killed at the hands of another student. Also, the state crime laboratory back then had altered the sideways x-ray a former lab director had shown them in Little Rock, which clearly revealed a separation of Janie's upper neck. The crude version of the telltale film that Ron received weeks later had Janie's neck blanked out and was missing the lab's official evidence seal. Ron was certain a wide-ranging cover-up to protect the person who claimed Janie's life had occurred involving law enforcement, politicals, and various legal systems. This hard-working rural family quickly recognized that they were fighting influential, wealthy interests beyond their ability to overcome. The system dealing with Janie's death was corrupted from top to bottom. I came to befriend the Wards in 2004, and remember again, this is Mike Masterson's article, as I began writing what would become more than 200 columns revealing just how blatantly this case had been manipulated. A former U.S. Marine, Ron, was obsessed with gaining justice in his daughter's death. He stayed on his computer and phone researching records and documents daily until late in the night. He vowed to Janie as he stood over her body in the funeral home that he would find justice for her. And the Wards over the years heard from locals who quietly passed along information. These same people were justifiably afraid to come forward because of the repercussions from powers in the local, county, and state criminal justice system. As months melted into years, pieces of evidence emerged to paint an undeniable picture that Janie had been murdered during the party at the hands of a classmate. A California forensic pathologist secured by the national group Parents of Murdered Children flew to Little Rock to perform a pro bono exhumation and autopsy. He concluded Janie's death had been a homicide from the neck injury. That bolstered Ron and Mona's hopes. His pledge to Janie would be fulfilled, and a special prosecutor was appointed. Attorney Tim Williamson of Mena came to Marshall, prayed with the couple in a local church, and vowed to get to the bottom of Janie's death. That pledge resulted in 4 wasted years of accumulating stacks of paperwork without meaningful results. Ron and Mona were devastated. They felt deceived. The state medical examiner's office, which had exhumed Janie's remains for a second time, I believe specifically to discredit the California pathologist's findings, left the case of Janie's cause of death as inconclusive. In other words, a long circle back to nothingness. Announcement: Hey, Arkansas, we spent 4 years investigating Janie's case, and that's it. Thanks for watching. They did something else equally inexcusable. Ron had been assured by the powers that at the time that he and Mona would be allowed to place personal letters he'd written her inside Janie's coffin before she was reburied. But following the autopsy, the medical examiner didn't tell the Wards that they were carrying Janie's remains and they were leaving Little Rock. The hearse arrived at the cemetery well ahead of the unaware Wards, where her remains were immediately reinterred. The pathologist and his driver had headed back to Little Rock before the family could even arrive. That single act still serves as a fundamental reminder of just how shabbily and shameful mistreated this family has been by our state's criminal justice system all these years. Yet, though through it all, Ron never stopped working to make good on his promise to his beloved late daughter. I received an exciting message from him not long ago, 29 years after her death, saying a private investigator was completing a report of indisputable facts showing that Janie had indeed been murdered. But nothing ever is certain in this troubled world. And a week ago today, the intense devotion that had driven Ron since that terrible night at the funeral home ended quietly. He passed away unexpectedly in his sleep, perhaps dreaming of what could or should have been done when it came to gaining justice for his sweet-spirited Janie. I have a strong sense that Janie was watching her father throughout the family's lengthy, stressful struggle. At least now they are together again in a realm of pure truth where the person responsible for Janie's death one day surely will face ultimate justice. I already miss this enormous man, affectionately nicknamed Big Ron, with whom I shared such an intense common bond in disclosing our stake to the truth. Godspeed, Ronald Jerome Ward, Mike Masterson, dated August 5th, 2018, copyright 2018, Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette. So, if they buried her before the parents could get there, I'm wondering, is she really in there at all, or did they completely dispose of her body so that nothing else could ever be found or examined or whatever? I know in the last autopsy they did strip her of all of the skin looking for hemorrhages, and so that's just weird all in itself. So that's just a little bit of something to think about. If you have a case file that you would like to share with me about a case that you want covered, you can send the information to my Facebook profile, Ember, Ensnow, or Messenger. U.S. only, and the information must be a case file obtained through the Freedom of Information Act. I will review it and see if there's enough information and speculation to share. Be sure to send me a friend request, like, follow, and comment on my posts. Please share where it is allowed, and any stars sent on Facebook or Spotify are most appreciated. Be safe, and even if you can't be safe, at least wear clean underwear. Your emergency responders will be thankful.